Cool. Welcome to Salience Project Ep.16, Part 2 on Self-Study. My name is Alec Cosio. This is Alexi Cortez.
What's up?
Welcome to the Salience Project. Here at the Salience Project, we use science-based tools and protocols to optimize the human experience. A little bit about saliency detection. It's considered to be the key attentional mechanism that facilitates learning and survival by enabling organisms to focus their limited subset of perceptual and cognitive resources on the most pertinent subset of available sensory data. Building an interoceptive habit that can help you change your lifestyle and behaviors to become a more optimal version of yourself by being more comfortable in your own skin. At the Salience Project, we're about building inner peace by deploying saliency connection between the mind, body, and inner spirit. By training saliency, one can build an internal relationship with their own inner voice and learn to decode themselves to become the most optimal version of themselves. Wow, that is profound.
That's profound. It's deep. There's a lot in there, though.
Profound. Yes.
I think as we go through our journey of this podcast, of this channel, the understanding of that description will be more clear to our audience. Right?
Yeah,
as they go, and
I definitely think that, like, as we continue to evolve this discourse dialogue, and as we dive deeper in the rabbit holes of different intricacies of psychology, neuroscience, biology, all of it, habits, whatever, we'll be able to narrow that down further and understand how we can help connect with our listeners in a much more meaningful way, and also build a community where they can participate. Because I don't want saliency to be like a concept that's outside of their realm of comprehension.
Yeah,
we need it to be tangible for them so that they can feel what we feel when we talk about these things.
Yeah, and I mean, at first when we first started talking about it, and I asked you, what should we call this thing, and you're like, the Salience Project. I didn't understand it at first. I had to go do my own research, look it up, and then it all made sense. And I was like, that is the perfect name for what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
And I love how it's like it's a neuroscience topic, and there's a different definition for that, and then there's a different definition than just a general description of what the word actually is. And all of them, all the definitions that I've seen so far, relate in some way to our whole journey, right? Like, where it's like in the neuroscience, the salient nerves are the ones that are going to fire more. So when I'm in a depressed state, I'm more in pain. Those are the ones that are going to be easier to fire, which is why it's so hard to get out of a depressive state. And then we want to use salient techniques of the nervous system,
behaviors,
in order to become salient in our daily lives, in order to stand above the rest in our daily lives and help others stand above the rest. And then eventually nobody's standing above the rest. We're all just standing up as tall as we are meant to be.
Right. Higher versions of ourselves, higher states of being is what we're trying to achieve.
So,
and a topic and a word that I like that we coined from our last conversation with Lee, and it's going to be the highlight of today's conversation because this is self-study part 2, is the term ultra awareness.
Yeah, and I really like that as well.
Yeah, so we as human beings have this ability to be aware, and there's we'll dive into it more, but there's peri-personal awareness, which is awareness of the internal state. So like when I close my eyes, like I can feel my heart, I can feel my feet on the floor, I can feel my bum in the cushion, I can feel my back straight, that's my peri-personal awareness. And then there's an extra personal awareness, I think that's what it's called, extra personal awareness, which is like awareness of the things outside of you. Yeah. And so what we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this conversation is, how do you context switch from peri-personal awareness to extra personal awareness and use that awareness to prioritize habits, behaviors, different things throughout your daily life so you can maximize your day and optimize yourself.
Okay, so keep going then. So
prioritizing your habits is acknowledging. First, you have to acknowledge all the habits that you have in a day. That is first. And coming back to cycles, every day is a cycle. You wake up, it's the same thing. You have X amount of hours in the day. You go about your day, and you have certain behaviors that you constantly do, subconsciously or consciously, depending on what you do. So, for example, every time I like to sit down with this conversation, I like to have a coffee. It just helps me stimulate, gets me going, gets my tiredness away. So that's a habit. I have to think about that, but that's subconscious. I know I want my coffee when I do this conversation. So going a little bit deeper, once you have all of your habits lined out, now these are habits that you do, again, with 85% efficacy a day. So with 85% chance you're going to do this on any
given day.
Right. Now, there's different types of strength in habits, which is how we grade them, if you will. There are context dependent habits and there are context independent habits. Now, context dependent habits means, like, for example, I have this coffee because I want to be having a conversation with Alexi. So this context means that this habit is dependent on the context, right?
Yeah.
Context independence means wherever I go in the morning, I like to meditate. Doesn't matter if I'm here at my house. Doesn't matter if I'm traveling.
Wouldn't that one be dependent on the morning? Like it's morning time, so
Yes,
you
but
meditate.
context is more about the setting,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the
I feel
setting,
that. I'm with that. Okay.
again, extra personal awareness. I'm in my home. I'm with my laptop. I'm having a conversation with Lexi. There's a lot of contextual information coming in. That means chances are I'm going to have a coffee with me because that's my habit.
Okay.
Do you see how this works?
Yeah.
Context independence means, like, wherever I am, for example, every single night I brush my teeth.
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around it a little bit better. So if somebody's criticizing me and my habit and my reaction is to be defensive, like, oh no, that's their fault. Oh no, it's not me. Oh no, I did this. Like getting defensive.
Yes.
Is that habit
I would
context dependent or context independent?
That would depend on how often, like, when you're criticized, is that your contextual reaction? Is that your reaction, is the context to the criticism, or is it in context to you feeling a certain way?
I would say let's say it's to the criticism. No matter if I'm in a good mood, bad mood, happy, depressed,
Then that's context independent.
that's context independent. Okay.
Because whatever, it doesn't matter if like, you could be right, good mood, bad mood,
Okay.
sad mood.
So then I'm
If you
glad you
get
brought that up. So let's say I'm normally like I deal with criticism really well normally. But like let's say today was like a super stressful day. I'm mad, I'm a little sad, and then someone comes at me chirping my ear and then I get defensive. Would that be more context dependent then?
uh I'm gonna go ahead. I'm not an expert on this. Remember, I'm
No,
just
I know. But
passing
like
on information.
I'm asking these questions, so I'm
But
assuming our audience can be
I'm gonna
asking.
say no, because that go no go pathway. Remember, like, dopaminergic
Yeah.
no go pathway would not be relevant, or would not be connected to your state of being. It would be connected to the criticism.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense? Because the
Yeah.
the go pathway would happen because of the criticism.
So like if someone I respect and I love and you criticize me, I know you would do it out of like because you care about me because you see that I can be better. So I probably wouldn't get too defensive. But it's like then someone off the street that I don't even know and they criticize me about something, and I'm like, you know,
Right.
that was where that no go kind of pops in there.
Yes, but remember, it's more about the habit itself. So is the habit that we're talking about the reaction, or is the habit that we're talking about the criticism? Right? So, sorry, not the criticism, but the habit that we're talking about is the reaction.
Yeah, is the yeah,
Is the
and like
reaction.
and I'm asking this because I've actually been thinking about it a lot, like I've been ultra aware since our last conversation about all the habits that I have. And that's like when people say certain things to me, I have a natural reaction in whether it's positive or negative. I'm just noticing that I have this reaction, or it's like I'm in a stressful situation X, like I tend to go to lean towards doing this. You know what I mean?
Okay,
It's like
I think I have a better way of explaining it to you. So, context dependent criticism would be like if I criticize you about the same thing over and over again, and then you have the same reaction over and over again. So if I say, Alexi, you're a bad soccer player. Alexi, you can't pass a ball. Alexi, you don't know how to shoot. Alexi, you can't use your left foot. Then that's context dependent because the criticism is focused around you playing soccer. Therefore, your
okay,
reaction is around the dependence of how you feel about you playing soccer. Therefore, you're
heard
going to
that,
have the same reaction.
heard that. Okay,
Context independence would be like, hey, I'm criticizing you about blah, blah, blah. You
and
know,
then the next thing is about a different blah blah blah. Right.
exactly. And I'm
Okay.
still criticizing you about a
I'm with
different blah, and then that's how you feel about it. So now that we know how you can gauge the strength of a habit, right? So if it's context independent, chances are it's a strong habit. If it's context dependent, then chances are it's a weak habit.
Okay.
And the
I'm with that.
chances, and the idea is we want to get habits to become context independent. Well, we want to get good forming habits to be context independent so
Yeah.
that they become part of who we are. So wherever I go in the world, I'm brushing my teeth at night. Wherever I go in the world, I'm waking up in the morning, I'm meditating. Wherever I go in the world, these are things about me. I'm clean. I like to have
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Whenever, like soccer, in the soccer context, whenever I lose the ball,
I'm gonna go win it back.
I go win it right away.
I go win it back.
I don't
I
even
don't care if
don't throw the hands up, nothing.
Yeah.
Just boom.
I go win it back.
Right
I don't
away.
care if I have to run 85 yards.
And that would be context independent.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Okay. Now, moving further, we have this context, or we have this idea of limbic friction. So limbic friction is the amount of top-down energy that it requires for you to complete a given task. So this is triggering your nervous system, sending neurochemicals to your brain. How much energy does it require? How much, if you could measure it, how much, amount of
effort,
dopamine,
mental
effort does it require me to actually get my body to act in accordance with what I want? That's a measure. That's how they measure it. Limbic friction.
We want to move, like when we have a context independent habit, one that's really strong. It's a lot less limbic friction. It should be a lot less limbic friction in order to do that.
Correct. And the context dependent habits, right, require more limbic friction, and then behaviors require even more limbic friction. Because
it's called limbic friction. Sorry, and it's called limbic friction because of the limbic system that kind of controls all this.
The autonomic nervous system that controls all of it.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
So that's how you can gauge, like, for example, this week I'm trying to exercise every day in the morning before 9 o'clock, right? So right now it's just an action because there have been days that I've missed, right? So right now it's just an action. I have to motivate myself to get up and go work out before 9 o'clock. The context is 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Context dependence would be, okay, I hit my alarm, whatever, I go grab my bike, I go grab my shoes, I go, right? Context independent means, okay, now I don't even have to wait for my alarm. I'm already up and I'm already going.
Yeah. It's all shoes are set.
Exactly. So that's how you can gauge, like, okay, I have new behavior that I want to execute. I plug it into my daily life. Now I have to gauge myself. How much limbic friction does it require? How much context does it require for me to actually perform the behavior?
For real.
Does that make sense?
I'm just imagining you sleeping with your shoes on, with your biking.
Exactly. And me like dressed. Exactly. So those are actually methods that you can use, like cheat codes that you can use to actually get around the limbic friction problem.
Okay. I'm with it.
Okay, so creating habits is a process of easing limbic friction until a behavior becomes automatic. Using protocols to get into the mindset that guides the behavior by using awareness and thinking of the step-by-step procedures that it would take to complete the habit will increase the likelihood of completion and cause...
Lost you, bro. Yeah, I lost you at the last part. So
basically what you're doing is you're training your body. So when I wake up in the morning and I go exercise, right, there's a certain set of neurons that are firing in my brain that are telling me what to do, right? Yeah. Okay. The so can you hear me?
Yeah, it was breaking up, but I got you.
Yeah. So the more neurons fire in synchronicity, the more I do the behavior, the stronger the signal gets, the easier it becomes.
Those neurons become salient.
Exactly. They become salient, but they also gather other neurons that are not functioning in the area and train them to fire at the same time to make the signal stronger.
True that.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And so there's actually a term for it, and I don't have the term written down, but I'll find the term and I'll put it in the show notes.
I think I know the term.
Yeah, it's basically like when a certain set of neurons are firing and you do the behavior repetitive over and over again, it'll actually gather more neurons.
It's like, area. I mean, I don't think this is the term, but it's like neuro recruitment, basically. Like,
exactly.
We're gonna recruit. You're not doing anything. Come be a part of this.
Come help us make this job easier.
Yeah. Okay, right. So something that I want to talk about, I guess, and define for our audience and discuss before we keep moving forward is what is a habit? Like, obviously everybody knows what a habit is, but I feel like a lot of people think of habits as like physical actions, right? Where it's like, okay, I have a habit of locking the door every time I leave my house, and I don't even have to think about it anymore. Right? That's like a physical action. But like, there's a lot of mental habits that I don't think people perceive that they have. You know, where it's like, and this is what I'm talking about, where like this last week or so, like I've been ultra aware about what my mental habits are. Are like, okay, when like what's an example? Like, okay, of like when you lose the ball, like what's your mental habit? Like the action is going to get the ball, but the mental habit is ignoring that, feeling sorry for yourself that you just gave up the ball and going to win the ball, you know? And it's like there's a mental habit, a mental component to habit forming that I think has always been missed, especially like for me, I guess, where it's like, what was the one I was thinking about earlier? Like when I'm in a stressful situation and like something stresses me out, I used to have a mental habit of like thinking that, God, this is tough. Like, I don't know if I can get through this. Where now it's like my mental habit is I can push through this. This is going to make me better. And therefore, I keep going.
I think a good way of thinking about habits is actions. So habits are actions, reactions actually,
Reactions and
reactions.
actions, but not just physical actions and reactions, mental
Yes.
thought processes that I have. Like, it's like when I hear someone saying this, I have a habit of doing this or to say or defending myself in X fashion, which leads to a physical
Correct.
action.
But I
You
think
know,
you're getting at the point of a habit, which is rewiring the like the neurochemistry and rewiring the neurological pathways, so that you have certain reactions and certain actions.
in certain
So,
actions. And
so
I think that we get that. I think that we understand that. But a lot
yes,
of people don't understand. Like when they hear habits, it's like it's just something I do automatically. And that's like how far they take it in their mental thought process. Where
right.
it's like, it's, I think we obviously know it goes deeper than that. And once we can get people to understand how habits are formed and that there's much more of a mental component to our physical actions and our physical habits than we think there are. You know?
Absolutely. And going into the next topic, mindset plays a huge role in habits. Habit completion, habit formation, habit thought process. Uh, mind being able to set your mindset up is basically I'm not gonna, this is ballpark, but I would say 50% of the battle.
I would say, I mean, well, you're never gonna overcome a bad habit if you don't have the mindset that I can change my habits. If you don't like,
Absolutely.
or that I can break this habit. If you don't have that mindset, you'll never be able to break the habit. Like, and then so that's a habit of changing your mindset and learning how and asking yourself, what is my mindset? Like, that's my new habit, is like every time something arises, something new, something different, something I don't like, I ask myself, what is my mindset towards this? Why am I acting like this? Why, you know what I mean? And like, so now I have a mental action, a mental habit of anytime like something new arises, I ask myself, what is my mindset towards this? And or I ask myself, why am I frustrated about this, rather than just like reacting straight away to whatever it is. Like there's have I guess you would call emotional intelligence in that way.
Hmm.
Because all emotional intelligence is like being able to have a gate over your thoughts before you let them out, and then like you funnel what that thought is and like decide if it should go through or not. That's all emotional intelligence is. And then like once you have that habit, once you can form the mental habit of, you know, recognizing, okay, I'm in a stressful situation right now. I
How do I
want to
want to
go do
react?
X. How can I change that? Right? Because it's like before when you got off, I kept talking and I started talking about like the the smoking of cigarettes. Like it could be because like let's say it starts out as my friends are doing it, so I do it, and then you start doing it, and then it's like the reason why you did it when your friends are doing it is because you didn't want to be left out, which was a stressor, right? And then so now it's like now anytime I'm stressed, I have an urge to go smoke a cigarette, and
Hmm.
it's like now and then so now we've just like you form that habit because when you get stressed out, I'm gonna smoke a little bit. I'm gonna smoke. I'm gonna smoke, and then it's like Now, can you recognize, okay, I'm stressed. I want to go smoke. How can I replace this habit with a different habit?
Absolutely.
Go for a run. Go for a walk. Read a book.
Right.
Right. Have a conversation. Call Alec anytime.
And I
Right.
think, yeah, I think your awareness and your mindset play a huge role in, first of all, understanding your habit, and then second of all, channeling the new habit, which is huge.
Which
Because,
is good.
like you said, if you don't have the mindset to register that you're even having this reaction or this action, then it's never going to hit you that you have a habit.
That you have a habit.
Yeah, you're
right.
just
So
gonna
it
go
gets into
because it
being ultra aware to
ultra
recognize
awareness, and it has the on how do you say automaticity?
autumn. No,
Automaticity. Have you heard
I
that
don't know
word?
if that's a word.
So automaticity is basically the automatic state that you're going to. So
Okay.
right when I sit down and I meditate, there's an automaticity into the way that I enter that state.
Okay. Yeah. Like when I'm not paying attention and a ball is flying at me, I open up the inside of my foot, no thought
Automatically.
process,
Boom.
and I touch it down. Like
Right.
right.
And
Yeah.
so when things become automatic, we don't think about them because they're so buried in our subconscious, and they're so buried in the trials and tribulations and traumas and childhood and the memories and everything that's stored in our brain
It's
to help
ingrained.
us to
A lot of these things are things you've been doing since you were 7 years old. You
to
know what I mean?
help us survive as coping mechanisms of the evolutionary brain that allow us to function as everyday human beings, right? And the state of your life is going to be a representation of the state of your habits.
Bro, I like that you put that, or you said that, because like earlier I was telling you I was reading about self-esteem and narcissism, right? And then so developmentally, both narcissism and healthy self-esteem start to develop around the age of 7. At this
Mm-hmm.
age, children draw heavily on social comparisons with others and start to evaluate themselves along the lines of I am a loser, I am worthy, I am special, etc.
Why do you think that fashion starts to matter when you're in middle school? Why do you
Because
think that like what kids wear starts to matter when you're in middle school? Because you're a comparing thing. You're comparing like you're making sense of the world by comparing this to that, A to
um,
B, right?
yeah.
And so everybody has that phase where you go to school and you're like, why does this kid have the Air Jordan 1s and I'm wearing like some jank Nikes? Whatever, right? And then why does that matter to you? Because you're in a state of like comparing yourself to understand
Yeah.
where you fit,
Where you fit in your social hierarchies, and
right?
like
And that's a
I mean
learned
back
behavior.
in the day, like
That's a learned behavior from tribal times.
exactly. Well,
From
yeah, I mean if we were back in a small tribe, like being a social outcast had detrimental effects. Like
right,
you probably were not surviving, and then so that has carried on in our DNA into today, even though it's not as important as becoming a social outcast in your 6th grade math class. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But it still feels the same as if it's like life and death, because back in the
absolutely,
day, it used to be life and death, right? So it's like
absolutely,
there is value in being aware socially of where you stand and trying to fit in. It has value, but finding now we're in this modern age, like we can find the group, we can find our tribe, we can make our tribe. Like
absolutely,
the tribe that you're thrust into because you were born on like 66th Street and 34th Ave, and you have to
absolutely,
go to PS 119. Like that doesn't mean that that's your life, right? It's like
yeah.
we're in such a modern world that you can go many different places and create different things.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
the cheat code is communicating this to the kids who are struggling with self esteem, who are struggling with habit formation and understanding who they are. But going back to our conversation, this is why mindset and understanding the mental, or I would say actually the neuroscience behind habit formation and habit processing and decision making and behaviors is very important, because habit formation actually is a process that happens in the basal ganglia, which sits at the center of your brain. So when we say mindset, we're literally talking about your mind, your
like the
brain.
foundation of it all.
Yes, exactly.
Everything that happens is comes after my mindset. In
Exactly.
terms of hormones released, in terms of neurons
So
firing, saliency.
when I close my eyes and I think about the tasks that have to go into effect in order for me to complete the habit that I want to have, I'm actually releasing neuromodulators in my brain to set that up in my mindset. This is a massive cheat code. Massive cheat code. Because now I'm taking the grandiose, dream lifestyle habit, right? Meditating every day, journaling every day, whatever that looks like for you, whatever that you want that to be, whatever that piece of your identity you want to fit it into, and you're taking it and you're processing it and you're breaking the task down into step-by-step procedures. Okay, get out of
In your
bed.
head before you've done it.
Right. And so this visualization exercise will allow you to get even closer to completing the task, and you don't even have to do anything. All you have to do is think about it.
So like let's say I'm an avid cigarette smoker and I want to quit. And then so you're saying like first have the mindset that you can break the habit.
Yes.
And then second, now walk yourself through breaking the habit in your mind.
Yes. In
Right?
your
Like
head.
every time you imagine yourself, every time you have the urge to smoke a cigarette, you're gonna eat a piece of fruit.
You're going to do X. Yeah.
Or you're gonna
plug
do
in
X.
Y.
It's a bet. Or you're gonna do 10 push-ups. Or
Right.
right. And then now that I visualize it, now when I have that urge, I go carry it out. And then so you're saying, if I just did, okay, I'm gonna do 10 push-ups every time I want to smoke a cigarette, and I never visualized it, and I just did it. You're saying that it could expedite that habit forming if I start to visualize it and start to carry it out when it happens. So I'm doing both at the same time.
Absolutely, because
Okay.
you're connecting brain and body.
And I agree with that wholly because, like, if you look at the neuroscience when it comes to learning motor skills, like, if
Visualization's key.
visualization is a huge aspect to speeding up your rate of learning, right? So it's like if I do, let's say I go do 10 repetitions of a free throw, even like right. So my motor skill, 10 repetitions of a free throw, right? Now if I go lay down and I just let my mind kind of wander itself through what it felt like to shoot the free throws and let my mind go through, I'll actually complete like 10 repetitions per second while I'm just laying there. So my brain will run through the same neuronal sequence, right? Boom, elbow up, through. I'm not good at basketball, right? But it's like there, I did that 10 times. Now I go sit down, relax, and not even like necessarily meditate, just like do nothing. Just sit here and do nothing. My brain will start to run itself through that sequence 10 times per second, which is like
Wow.
we know it does it in sleep. So it's like when you learn a new motor skill, do you think that your brain is changing in that moment?
No.
No, right? It's when I go to sleep later
That you
that my
download
brain
it.
begins to change, right? So it's like when I'm learning the skill, my brain is like dropping checkpoints and dropping markers like this one, this neuron is the one you need to focus on, like this one.
Yep.
And then when I go to sleep, it
That's when it
fires
starts.
through that
Yep.
one and reconstructs it, reshapes it, like doesn't erase, but the old ones aren't as strong. They're not being made stronger, being made better. Only this one is being made stronger, right?
Absolutely.
And so I believe that like, and that's why I want to get to that. It's not just a physical action because like obviously with the motor skill that's a physical action, but there is a neuronal mental component to it that we can learn to leverage, which is what you're speaking on, which is
Right.
like if we can learn to visualize the good habit and us carrying out the good habit every day, then we'll start to run through those sequences automatically without even having to do it. So like okay, for the last week, every day I wanted to smoke a cigarette, I did 10 push-ups. If I visualize that at night and I focus on that every night, or even just for 5-10 minutes during the day, I'll run through that action 100 times. And then so now I've solidified it even more than I would have if I
Right.
just did that for the next 30 days.
Right. And so taking this concept of mindset and using like the understanding of the neuroscience of the basal ganglia, the brain is actually very, very, very intelligent in terms of how it determines when a task is started and finished. So what that means is it's this concept called task bracketing. And what happens is my brain will register an action only when it's been completed. So when I'm in motion of doing my 10 push-ups, right? Or if I'm thinking about doing my 10 push-ups, my brain doesn't register that. It's only when I've completed the action that my brain brackets it in mental space, right? Brackets it and then stores it.
So what is the signal for something being completed? Just being completed?
The signal is the second dopaminergic release of you did good. Good job.
But I guess what I'm asking is like, how does my brain know that I just fit like that? I didn't want to do 11 push-ups, or that I'm not taking a break.
So, for example, using the cigarette example, if I just go through, like, let's say I pick up the cigarette, I put it down, and I walk away from it, my brain won't register the habit. Like, my brain won't register breaking that habit. It will only be when I complete the 10 push-ups and I get that, like, okay, good job, Alec. Like
Heard that. Okay, okay. Like
internal
that
mental
feel
reward.
good. Like like
Yeah,
I overcame
exactly,
that habit this time, right? Like
exactly.
that's action completed. Okay, cool.
That's
I
action
just want to.
completed. That's action completed, dopaminergic release. Then that it becomes stored. So the next time you recall that habit, it's even stronger of a signal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
100%.
Okay.
So I see in
So
here. Yeah, you're about
yes,
to move on to neuroplastic states.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
You wanna read that and then cover it?
Well, I want to know where your head's at with that.
Okay. So then understanding that these states of neuroplasticity of learning open behaviors and how they're related to mindset are the two keys to plugging in new behaviors into your day, right?
100%.
So
100%.
by creating this mindset of motivation, so mindset is the initial motivation, dopamine, like let's go do this, right?
Yeah.
Then the neuroplastic state is this effects after, not during.
Hold on.
So
No, I lost you there. So not connection wise. I'm confused.
yeah. So the mindset is the first dopaminergic release. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go do this task. Now, the neuroplastics like downloading that we talked about of the new behavior happens after you complete the task. So this is where task bracketing comes into play.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, because neuroplasticity is a state, and all it is, the state is that I have epinephrine and acetylcholine released from two different areas of the brain. One's prefrontal cortex. I'm not sure where the other one is. Those three things need to be released in my brain to be in a neuroplastic state. And so I would argue to say that when I'm in the middle of whatever it is, I want to be in a neuroplastic state, because like that will like those three neuromodulators, um, they they are what open up the window to allow me to change the neural sequences that I have in my brain, right? So it's like this is what I've been thinking about a lot. It's like, okay, so epinephrine is adrenaline. Stress releases epinephrine and adrenaline in the brain and the body. Okay, and then like feeling like I failed, feeling like I'm embarrassed, that releases the acetylcholine into the brain, right? And then so it's like when I'm in a stress state, I'm actually in the most neuroplastic state I can be in, especially as an adult old over 20 years over the age of 25, right? And it's like so like that's why like I've been like kind of asking these questions where it's like when somebody's stressed out, that is the like they're going to learn whatever they do the most, right? So it's like most people are stressed out. They I don't know, they have like they talk to themselves like this is bad, this is not good. So now they're training their brain that every time they're stressed out, they're having negative self-talk with themselves that this is not good, I need to get out of this. Right? Where it's like my mindset is that yeah, this sucks. Stress is not fun, but it's here to make me better. It's here to make me stronger. And then so it's like so then like and I realize that and then I can now I've been changing my habits much easier and much faster because like now I realize, okay, I'm stressed out right now. I'm upset. I'm sad. Whatever. I'm in this state of stress. I know I'm neuroplastic. I know I'm in a neuroplastic state. So whatever I do, my brain's gonna learn, right? So it's
Right.
like I used to tend to go. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it. I used to go smoke some weed or used to go drink a beer, and then like so I'm teaching like so now I'm teaching myself because I'm in such a neuroplastic state that whenever you're in this state, you want a beer, you want to go smoke some weed, you want to ignore your thoughts and your feelings, you want
Have
to
that cigarette. Go
have that right, have that.
get the blah blah blah. Yeah,
Well,
and I think you're on the right track. And maybe I had this in the wrong order, but the neuroplastic state comes from when you're recognizing that you're about to do the bad habit, or when you're recognizing that you're about to do the good habit, plugging in the habit that you want to create.
I think the neuro. Say that again. Say that one more time.
So, like, you go into a neuroplastic state when you recognize that you want to complete this habit, that you want to do X, Y, Z, right?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's why how what you're trying to say, but the way you say it makes it seem like I can consciously induce a neuroplastic state. And
Yes.
I don't think that we
I
can,
definitely think you
like,
can
I don't think I can
consciously
think
induce a
myself. I
neuroplastic
don't
state.
think myself. I don't, and I would love to argue that, and like where it's like I don't think I can think myself into a neuroplastic state. Like, I think that something has to be done in order to induce that neuroplastic state, right? So, like this neuroplastic
Alexi,
state.
take your idea, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and then let's bring it into the realm that we both understand, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
coaching, right? When I get a kid to learn to pass a ball for the first time, right? Well, how do you do that?
You just,
You just pass a ball,
that's passable. Yeah.
right? Does that person have to go into a stress related state?
Well,
Does
I
that
mean, but
kid
like,
does that
so hold
kid
on, hold
have
on.
to
So
does that kid have to be in like a state of panic?
no, no. But
No.
they'll learn faster if they are. But
Okay, yeah,
you
fair
gotta
enough.
remember, under the age of 25, you're always in a neuroplastic state. So like you always have a little bit of epinephrine and acetylcholine in your brain. Always. Like you're always in that. And then so it's
Right.
like yeah, a kid you don't have to do shit. Like you could be like, here, try this, do that, like, and they're gonna just learn it. But like
Right.
if you ask an adult to do that, I think you'll run into a different scenario where like they won't learn it like that. Like they
Now, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but now I might I think I did read an article on this. I'll have to bring it up and I'll have to send it to you. But I think that the levels of acetylcholine and epinephrine are just reduced after the age of 25, but they're still present.
well they might, yeah, I would not know. I wouldn't yeah, and I would definitely argue, like, agree with that. Like there's
We
no way
will
it's going to
have to
be
get the
zero.
science. Well, yeah, we'll have to get the science. But what I'm arguing is that when you consciously, or what I'm advocating for is when you consciously say, Alec, I'm going to do this. I'm starting with the mindset, and then I do the action. And then as I fail, succeed, whatever, I'm still in that learning neuroplastic state because I'm in motion. And then when I bracket it at the end with the task bracketing and I complete the state and I get second dopamine release, then
And that solidifies the action.
that solidifies the
Yeah.
action.
But like I don't like
Now, granted, I will argue with you that sorry, I will agree with you that if I'm in a stress induced state, that the levels of acetylcholine and epinephrine will be much greater. Therefore, the feeling of how that action takes place will be ingrained much deeper,
much faster, right?
much
And then so it's
faster.
like yeah, I don't know if I could be like, Alexi, we're gonna learn this today and do this, and I like I'm not sure if that's how if like I think it would be okay. I'm like, let's say I'm trying to learn how to do like a rainbow, which is flicking the ball over my head for those of you that don't know how to play soccer, right? And I've never done it, right? And it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna learn this, and like I don't think the neuroplastic state begins or so. I guess if we're gonna argue it, like I don't think the levels of epinephrine and acetylcholine will increase until you failed and until you've gotten frustrated. And then once you've failed and you've gotten frustrated, then that's when you're in that neuroplastic state. And then what do most people do when they get frustrated and they fail too many times? They give up. So then now they're teaching themselves that habit of whenever something gets too tough, too frustrating, I'm not doing it well, I'm going to give up. They're teaching themselves that habit where it's like if you just learned that okay, I'm inducing a neuroplastic state because I'm frustrated, because I keep failing. Then if I keep going, whether I complete it or not, or whether I do it or not, my brain is learning the habit of continuing to just keep trying until you get it. Like, right? And then so it's like I I believe that there's a lot of limbic friction to get yourself to learn something. But then once you've failed and you're frustrated enough and you actually care about it passionately, you're going to continue to keep going through it, and then that's when you really start to use the neuroplasticity where it's like before that you're
Right.
trying to get there.
For example, right. For example, um, one of my goals every day is to drink a gallon of water. Some days I fail. When I fail, I know I fail because I have the gallon of water with the water still in.
Yeah, but how bad does that hurt you?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. When I see the gallon of water, I look at it and I'm kind of disappointed in myself.
Yeah, like you're actually disappointed and like let
Actually
down. Like
disappointed in
you
myself.
feel like
Yes.
you
I
feel
feel that.
your neurochemistry changing. You feel your
Right.
biology changing.
Yes, because your
Whatever.
feeling changes.
Okay, so then now those habits, I have questions like how do you form that? Because it's not like you can go just drink a gallon of water right then and there when you're feeling that. Because when you feel that, you're in the most neuroplastic state in that moment when you
Right.
feel that. Not it had
Right.
it wasn't up until not
Not
all
until
day were
throughout
you
the
in that.
day.
It
Yeah,
was
not
at that moment that you were like, I failed. That's when all that's released, and it's like, okay, so what action can you do now in order to complete it? Maybe chug a little bit of water, not all of it, but just
yeah.
drink it. So you get into that action of, okay, I'm gonna drink some more
Yeah,
water now.
but the task was never completed. That's what I'm saying. Is like the task wasn't completed. I failed, the task wasn't completed, but I have that neuroplastic state.
But
So then
well, I would say the task is completed once you've
registered that I failed.
registered that you failed. And then now you're starting the next task, which is rewiring why you failed.
Right. And
Right.
then
So it's like,
working through the process of going through, okay, how can I do this better? How can I
how
be
can
better at
yeah,
this?
right? Because
Right?
like I
And
definitely
that's the neuroplasticity. The neuroplasticity is understanding that you've not done what you needed to do, right? Having that sensation and feeling, and then working towards figuring out how to fix it. Because that's when you're in the most neuroplastic state, is when you're trying to come up with a solution to make that habit better or to make whatever better.
and it's not happening.
And it's not happening.
And you're like, and you feel inside like
Right.
shit, like, and then you're
Exactly.
stressed, and you're
And then
like,
there's those days where I do drink my whole gallon of water and I feel good. And that's the task bracketing neuroplasticity. Like that's the okay, cool. That problem had a solution. I figured it out. I made it happen. There's a feel good feeling. Like when I fixed the car. You know what I'm saying? And so
yeah.
coming back to this concept of ultra awareness, you can self-induce those neuromodulators by having this awareness of what's going on.
I absolutely believe that you can induce a neuroplastic state. Like once you're aware, right? So it's like I could go, and I
But
do it
for
all the time.
yeah,
Like I'll train and try to do something that I know I'm going to struggle with, that I know I'm going to get frustrated at, and I'll do it, and I'll get frustrated, and like I'll be mad and like upset, like because I have an ego and I do want to be the best I can be, right? So I get frustrated, get upset, and then I finish. Like I'll do like maybe 10 to 50 more repetitions of whatever I've done, and then I'm still in that neuroplastic state. So then I'll come over here and I'll read and I'll read and write and do things because now I like the neuroplastic state doesn't just stop when you're done with whatever task that induced it. You can use it and leverage it to do other tasks.
absolutely.
Right. So it's like, so that's one way that I induce it. Right. And then so like the neuroplastic state, it's adaptive. Like it's designed to help us survive.
Adapt.
Because
Yeah.
if I stopped learning at the age of 25, then I would probably die eventually because the world changes, things change. I have to adapt new techniques,
Right.
etc. Right. So the fact that I can induce it myself is adaptive, right? And then so like when I understand that my body likes homeostasis, so it likes certain things, right?
Likes comfort. It likes to be
It
comfortable.
so it does not like to go upside down. It does not like to feel like it's falling, like I'm falling down. Like my
Right.
brain does not like those things. So when those things happen, my brain puts itself into a neuroplastic state
Yeah. Have you
so that
ever
way I don't let that happen again, right?
right?
So it's
Have you ever like almost fallen and then you get that jolt of like
yeah.
or your
Yeah, well,
nervous system like
that's
fires?
epinephrine
Yeah,
is
that's epinephrine and
released,
acetylcholine.
heart
Or
rate,
like when you're
and then
driving and
you
somebody
know.
comes into your lane and you have to react and you get that like chill sensation in your body.
And then
Those
what's
are the
most people's reaction when people cut them off?
they get angry.
Right? But they're like that's their reaction because it happened one time. They were in that neuroplastic state, and then that habit has been formed, and then now it only gets stronger and stronger and stronger because I mean people are going to cut you off all the time. Like you're
Yeah.
never going to be able to escape that. But it's like once you realize that, oh, them cutting me off scared the shit out of me. And he put me in a neuroplastic state, and then forever after, my reaction has been "fuck you, fuck this, you're a bad driver," right?
Yes.
Rather than like now you can learn to control it. Where it's like I think that sport has helped us with that a lot because like when like it's the same thing when someone cuts us off. When I turn and someone's like right on me and I didn't know they were going to be there, you have that same reaction, like right, you know, and
Yeah.
like you like freak out, and it's like for us, like we're going to lose the ball if we do that. So we've had to
Hmm.
learn that we have to have a better reaction when that happens, and it's either touch to the side or a soul roll or a scissor or something now that we've learned to override our natural response of getting mad or freaking out with a move the ball to the left, move the ball to
Yeah.
the right kind of idea, right? So it's like I feel like once we learn that those are triggers to a neuroplastic state. Somebody cutting me off, somebody getting in my face and yelling at me, somebody like me failing over and over again, me falling over and catching myself. Like all of those induce a neuroplastic state. So whatever I do right after that is going to
What's going
become
to
a
stick?
habit.
Absolutely.
More likely than not is going to become a habit. And once you
Hmm.
understand that, then when you get put in those situations, you start to ask yourself, is this the habit that I want to form?
Right.
You know, is this
Right.
what I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to our previous conversation, pulling from our previous conversation, habits that we've talked about, some habits that require a lot of limbic friction will take more time to form than others that don't require as much limbic friction. So keep that in mind whenever you're trying to choose certain habits or make habits that actually apply to your daily life, because I think that's relevant to what we're talking about. And then understanding the neurochemistry, the mindset, the importance of deliberate action, of ultra awareness, will allow you to be even better, or to actually make that habit stack and stick even quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, there are three phases of the day after waking when you go, or there are three phases of the day when you can actually plug in service. Now, waking up in the morning, your brain and body are ready to go, ready for the day. So those are going to be habits that require a little bit more friction to complete, tasks that are going to be a little more challenging, tasks that require more mental energy, and things that you want to do, put them in the beginning of the day. And a little previous on this. So now we're going to go into different tools and protocols that can actually help you build and solidify habits for your own life, for those around you, whatever. So phase one is going to be 1 to 8 hours of the day. So that would be, for me, that would be 7 o'clock to probably what? That would be 3 o'clock. So 7 to 3 is going to be like hardest tasks. So that is going to be like exercise in the morning, meditate, do yoga, whatever. Tasks that require more deliberate action. Then phase two is 9 to 16 hours. So that would be from 3 to about what, 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 to
Six.
11, 3 to 11. So that would be phase two, would be 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock. Those are going to be habits that don't require as much limbic friction. Those can be, give me an example, Alexi, of a habit that you want to form that doesn't require a lot of read every day. That's a good one. Doesn't require a lot of limbic friction. I can do it pretty easily. It can be done
Well, I
very,
mean, obviously the limbic friction is going to be context dependent, I guess, where it's like it depends on the person. You know, I
right.
like to read, so like me forcing myself to get into the habit of reading every day wasn't that hard because as a kid I liked to read.
There
You
you
know, but
go.
there are people out there that they hated reading as kids. Getting them to read a book now is like the most limbic friction they've ever had in their life.
Yep.
You know, so yeah.
And then the last phase of the day would be 17 to 24 hours, and that's going to be your downloading time. So that's going to be where you go through memory recall, NSDR protocols, reflection periods, visualization periods of you actually completing the habit and you actually making it, and how you felt and everything that goes around it. So just to recap, new harder habits, put them at the beginning of the day. Habits that are a little bit already kind of there, put them in the middle of the day, and then make sure that you're doing a reflection, visualization, NSDR protocol at the end of the day, where you go through and you're honest, brutally honest, if that's criticism, whatever, about how you did with that habit. And
Yeah, like
those are
uh,
three phases after waking that will help you plug in new habits, maintain good habits, and then have a reflection
I
process.
think one of the hardest habits for me was like I'm an impulsive person. I naturally have an addictive personality. Uh, and then so like one of the habits that was hardest for me to break was like when I had the thought of wanting something, I went and did it or got it, right? And it's like that is a habit, no matter what the context of it is that I wanted to do or wanted to have, like that was it. And then so now it's like I have realized that I spend more time in the morning being disciplined about it. Like I want this, no, like because like, and that's how it started with my fasting because like I want food, like I used to want to eat right away before when I woke up, and then I was like no. And like the more I did that, the easier it got to like to not be as impulsive. And then so now it's like because like this morning I woke up and I mean I didn't want to come to work, you know what I mean? But I fucking dragged myself here.
Showed up.
I mean? But it's like my habit is to get in the car and go. Like it's such a habit now that I don't have to worry about it. Even though like my brain, there was a lot of limbic friction in the action of today. Even though it's such a habit to get here in the morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just to recap, the habit formation and habit sticking has to do a lot of with repetitive conditioning. I'm sure that has to be, pretty straightforward. And then reward prediction error actually helps guide people's habits. So, and then going back to what we were talking about earlier, now, the only reason why I cared if I didn't drink a gallon of water was because I have a punishment. And that punishment is I have to do an extra 30 minutes of exercise throughout the day. So if I don't, the next day, if I don't finish my gallon, there is a punishment. So by having a reward or a punishment at the end of a habit means that it's actually going to stick further. Like it's going to be something that is actually much more impactful. Now, when you think about different habits that you want to have, you have to put consequences and reward at the end because there has to be either a feel good or a a dissatisfaction with yourself. Because that's how it's going to be important. That's how it's going to stick. And going back to this, the tool that and the neuromodulator that this is connected to is in the basal ganglia and is the dopaminergic system. Okay. So now we're going to finally get to habit procedure examples. So as we talked about at the beginning of the episode, go through your daily life, write down all the habits that you have, things that you do consistently over and over again, no matter what. Decide whether they're context dependent, context independent, grade them on the level of limbic friction that they have, understand the mindset and the visualization that has to go into completing the new habits that you want to plug in, right? And then you pick 2 to 3 habits and you start to stack them in the beginning of your day. You do visualization exercises to help you get there the night before. That will help you complete them. And a lot of things that I've talked about in the neuroscience is you have to write things down. They have to be time-stamped, and you have to have a sequential order of events that needed to be preceded for the habit to be completed. So a good way of doing that is so you can visualize, write down the habit that you want to create, put a timestamp, what time you're going to do that habit, and then write down the sequential order of events that you have to do in order to complete that habit. And that will help you start the behavior and then help you maintain. You don't have to write it down every time, but now you have a check mark. Hey, this habit needs to be done here at this time. This is the amount of procedures that I have to go do it. And then put the reward or punishment at the end so that you know and you hold yourself accountable. Set aside time before bed to mentally re-experience your whole day and go through the different habits that you wanted to create or complete, and then rinse and repeat until it becomes 85% reflexive and you don't have to think about them. And that's how you know that the habit is stuck. So an example of that is every day after lunch, I go out for a walk. I take my dog for a walk.
That's a habit now?
That's a habit now. Yeah. And it's good because it helps me with,
digestion.
It helps me reset my brain for the next part of the day. I get time away, I get outside, I get light viewing. There's a bunch of positive benefits from that habit. Now, if I don't walk my dog, I have a punishment. Okay.
What's that? Dog. You gotta clean the dog poop.
I actually have to clean the dog poop. That means like if I don't complete that habit, I gotta go clean the dog poop, and I hold
But
myself accountable.
how do you drag yourself to go do that?
You just accountable. You have to be accountable.
So that's a habit of holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
So yeah, like so there's I guess hierarchy, right? Because if I
Right.
don't have the habit of holding myself accountable, this stuff will be tough to do.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, the habit of holding myself accountable to myself each day, that like there are so many opportunities in your day to do that. You know, so
Absolutely.
like that should be the first habit, right? So then I guess the 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 most important thing, I guess, is to find the habit that is the root to most of your other habits. You know, because if you have a
Give me an
habit of holding,
example.
like you have a habit of holding yourself accountable. Like you wouldn't have played college soccer if you didn't hold yourself accountable. So it's easy for you to do these things, and just like it's easy for me to do these things. But like, there's a lot of people out there that they've never had to hold themselves accountable, right? So it's like, because the example is, okay, I have to hold myself accountable to changing my habits. Let's say I want to change the habit of, I don't know, eating ice cream after dinner, right? Like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then I have to hold myself accountable to, I want to be the most optimal version of myself and be the fittest I can and wake up the next day and not, like, you know, feel the best. So, like, I hold myself accountable to that, right? But if I don't have the habit of holding myself accountable to everything in my life, then that is going to be much harder to do. Where it's like, bro, we had no one told us to train extra when we were kids. Like no one told it. Like we did it because we loved the game and like we held ourselves accountable and we realized that if I want to make it as high as I can and I don't train, I'm not going to get there. You know,
Right.
it's like so
2 days
we've
a week
had
is not
that
enough.
habit of accountability since we were children, and that's why it's so easy for us to do these things. And that's why it's so hard for me when a general population client comes in to understand where they're at, because I've been like this for we've been like this for our entire lives, so we know nothing else. You know, but a lot of these people, they've lived their lives not like with just instant gratification surrounded by it. Like it's so easy. I want food, to go to the fridge. I want this, I pay for that. I want, like, you know, whereas like for sport, like we didn't pay to get good. Like nobody I didn't pay anybody $1 million to give me the skill set that I have. I had to work my ass off and sweat and cry and fail for years and years and years to have the skill set that I have. Right? So it's like we're used to that. So it's like for people that don't have that haven't had the luxury that we had in that situation, like it's we have to teach them to not teach them, help them to find what is the root habit that is leading to all their other habits.
Yeah.
Right? Accountability
Absolutely.
might be one, right? You know,
Discipline.
self-talk might be one, right? Where it's like anytime that anytime something happens, I talk negative to myself. That was definitely a bad habit that I had. Anytime good, bad, I found a way to be cynical to myself, negative to myself. And that was a really bad habit that I had. And I had to change that habit. And that just came with me lying to myself and being positive at first. And then just the more I did it, eventually it became a habit. And now, like anything negative in my life, I'm like, this is going to make me better. This is going to make me stronger.
Let's do it.
You know, like bring it on. Oh,
Let's
that's it.
do
That's it.
it.
Like that's it. That's all it was. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it again. Right.
Let's do
Like,
it again.
but like, so my mindset, our mindsets are
Different.
different. You know,
Trained. Trained.
they're more trained. We're more trained. Exactly. I
Yeah.
like that because I wouldn't say we're more disciplined. I wouldn't say we're better. We're just trained differently in this aspect. And yeah, so it's like finding the habit that leads to the rest of your habits. Right. Like, okay, I have a habit of
Massive cheat code, by the way.
Say that again.
Massive cheat code.
Massive cheat code. You know, so it's like find that root habit that
Right.
leads to all the other habits. You know,
Right.
and it's like
For me, that's exercise. Exercise is the root habit that allows me to do all the other habits. The
all the
cold
other
pull
habits. Yeah.
is the accountability, the journaling, the yoga, the meditation, the embodiment, all of
It's
this.
allowed you to do all that.
It's allowed me to expand myself beyond what I think is possible for me.
Yeah.
You know, and so those habits have stacked into creating the lifestyle that I want, you know, and being the person that I want.
I think my root habit was like always since I was a kid. Like I've always like whenever anything would happen, I just like would always say to myself like, "You're going to be better than you are today," and like that's been my habit. Even when I was talking negatively to myself all the time, like I just always had this mental habit of being like you're gonna be better, and then like that led to all the other decisions of trying to figure everything out and trying to like just be the best that I could be um, in that aspect. I
I
don't
would
know. Like
say I would say on that note, my root habit is I thoroughly enjoy doing things that are hard.
me too,
Like
bro.
I
But
love doing things like, oh, you want me to do a 7-minute cold pull workout? Okay, let's
let's
go.
try it, bro.
Let's
Let's
do
see how long I
it.
can handle. Like I'm
Yeah,
trying to see how long I can go. Like, but
exactly.
that's a habit that we formed
Right.
as kids. Like, and I was like, I'm trying to see how long I can go, how far I can, how much I can take,
No, that's
how
so funny
strong
that you
am I.
mentioned that because in my show notes I have the 4 keys to habit formation, and then I have in parentheses I have grit, and then I have detached from the ego. So whether
Okay.
you succeed or fail, it's not a summation of who you are entirely. And you
Yeah.
do need grit. You need grit to push through the tough situations, to push through the failures. You need
To
grit
change the heart,
to
the
change,
ingrained habits that you've
yeah,
had for
to
the last
change the
30,
comfort
20.
into discomfort. You
Yeah.
need that. And then
Yeah.
the final things that I'm going to leave you guys with are the 4 key habits. 4 keys to habit formation are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Now, those are the 4 basic steps to habit forming, but habit maintaining is different.
Habit maintaining is different. You can easily get in and out of habits for sure.
The grit. Habit maintaining is the reward, or what's the opposite of reward? Punishment, prediction, right? If I do A, I get B. If I don't do A, I get Z.
Contingency testing. We're
Yeah,
playing, and we're in
yeah,
a playground,
exactly.
and it's like when you can, like when you have the grit and you can detach from your ego, you're in a more playing state, and you can just like okay, I failed this time. Next time I'm gonna try to do better, and it's like we can't take ourselves so seriously in that aspect, you know.
Absolutely. So
But
again, pick 2 to 3 habits that you want to play. Well, go over your habits, what you do on a daily basis. Pick 2 to 3 that you would like to add, and then use all of these tools to get you where you want to go.
and
And I
realize
think
it's not going to happen overnight, and it's
it's
not
not
going
going
to
to happen
happen
overnight.
over a
Yeah,
week, a month, and like it could change for a little bit, and then you go back to your old habit. Like it's a constant, consistent battle with yourself, and like that's all it is. Is like you are trying to be
you are
bet,
playing against
better than
you.
you than
Yeah,
yourself wants you to be.
yeah.
You know, because I'm playing against myself every day. I'm like it's a competition every day, and I don't like to look at life as competition, but competition is good, and
It pushes you.
I'm battling. I'm
Yeah,
challenging myself every day. It's like, can I not eat till 2 o'clock? Like that was my challenge today. It's 1:51. We won. You know what
let's
I mean?
go.
So it's like, and then now like, and then so you like the last one of the four keys to making habit. Like, if it's a habit that you truly care about changing, it's gonna be satisfying. Like I'm looking at the clock and I'm satisfied. Like I'm happy with myself that I didn't eat till 2 because at 10 o'clock I could feel myself asking for food. It was like, feed me. I'm hungry. And it's like I had to
No,
resist that for the last 4 hours. You know what I mean? And I used that stress to read, to have this conversation, to be dialed in. And then so now I'm forming a habit because I'm in a neuroplastic state because I'm hungry and I'm stressed, right? And it's like now I've formed a habit of being on top of myself. Like,
well, remember, right now it's a behavior. It's not a habit until it's done 85% of the time.
so
That's a way to measure yourself.
I think so, like, cause like for this podcast we're doing this call, there was some limbic friction for me. I don't know about for you, but like it wasn't like I didn't want to do it, but it was like, man, I gotta have to sit here and have a conversation. Like that's gonna be a lot of mental
I
toughness.
was pretty excited because I'm fascinated with habit forming and how it actually affects your
No,
life
no,
and your
not today,
trajectory.
not today, not today. I'm
uh,
talking about in the beginning, like in the
uh,
beginning, the first few weeks. But now that we're on like week 16, week 17, we're doing it, like it's so enjoyable. Like I'm much more excited. Like there's no limbic friction. Like I can't wait to have the call, kind of idea. But it's like I would say we've done it for long enough to where now it is a habit to get on a call with you once a week and sit here and discuss these things.
For sure. All right, man. That's all I've got for you guys today. You guys are amazing. Alexi, you're amazing.
Have a great week.
Yes.
You are designed to be the greatest version of yourself. Nobody
and
can
it's
be a
you
better
against
you than you.
That's right. Me against me, you against you. Go crush it.
Go crush it. See you next week.
Later, bro.
Peace. Peace, homie.